What's good, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Land Grant Podcast Network's Power 2 Podcast, the first off-season episode of the Power 2 Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jordan. I'm here with my co-host, DJ. How we living?
Well, you know, we living.
And there you have it.
We living, man. We living. Listen, the last time you heard from us, it was a very happy and exciting and celebratory day, but there was also another thing that happened that day.
No,
We are
not in my
1
life.
week into experiencing those things, but it's a good day either way.
Yeah. So before we get started, because I always forget, please be sure if you're listening to this, and you are, and we appreciate you, that you give us a follow on Instagram at Get Defensive Sports Network, that you give us a follow on TikTok, also at Get Defensive Sports Network, and that you give us a follow on YouTube, a like, a subscribe, all of those good things. And I mean, I'm sure you could guess it, but in case you can't, it is also at Get Defensive Sports Network.
Defensive Sports Network, period. We try to keep
trend.
brand continuity up in here.
There's a trend. This episode comes to you every Monday. It is also on YouTube every Monday. You can see our beautiful faces if you so choose. And even if you don't so choose, we would still appreciate it for the numbers' sake, so we can get to this bag and get a couple followers on YouTube. I had someone, because when you get on YouTube, and you all, you listen to the show, we appreciate you. I need you all to be able to defend me in this. I had someone say something really stupid in our comments. And my response, as my response almost always is when people take a clip out of context, is if you listen, you would understand what I'm saying. You're being dumb. And he was like, you have 20 followers. It's like 40.
Oh, that comment.
Nobody listens. And I was like, oh.
That comment.
Wow.
I remember that one.
It's almost like this show exists outside of YouTube.
It's almost like this show is new to this platform. I remember seeing that comment. So it's funny. Me and Jordan are different in a way, because Jordan reads the comments on YouTube and I do not. I have kind of like a TikTok, not a following on TikTok, because that's not real. That's not the truth. And ain't nobody finna take this out of context and make it seem like I said I was an influencer, because I'm not. But I have a couple of videos that have gone viral on TikTok. And just the crazy things that people say, I'm just like, I'm not reading the comments. I don't have the patience. So I already kind of like have that attitude about this, especially when you're talking about sports. Like, people are so unhinged about sports. Like, they are so unhinged. Like, if you say you don't like their team, they think that you said that you want to stomp out their granny and that you are going to take her purse and take, like, the way that people take stuff so personal about sports. I just don't read the comments. But I did read that and I was like, you say, okay, oh, no one's listening to your show. Oh, you only have a couple subscribers, but your ass is here. So.
But honestly, that's why I respond, because I don't know if YouTube is like this, but I do know TikTok is like this. Like, the more you're active and like the comments and like just like on it in general, it kind of expands the reach.
Yeah.
So I try to be in the comments, because it's like, at any given point, this comment is our first comment. You know what I mean? Like, we're not getting a whole lot of interaction on there. So like, that's why, not because I like care about people's opinions, because
you'll never catch me caring. I'm so sorry.
But it's just a way to get some like, you know what I'm trying to say.
To get the traction, yes. I do understand.
Get some following, that sort of stuff. So yeah, that is why I do it. It is not at all because I care about what people have to say. But it's also funny because the comment was on like the stupidest thing possible. I don't even remember what it was. It was on
one of our reels. It was on, I think it was the reel where you said that you felt like Ohio State could be the next dynasty.
No, it wasn't that one. It wasn't that one.
It wasn't?
No, it was about Michigan. It was I said something about like first round picks or something, but I was talking specifically about like a position group or so. It was just like, I was talking about something very specific, regardless of what it was. I was talking about something very specific, and he was trying to like expand it to something else. And I was just like, Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. Like,
Like, thank
there's
you,
a
but
yeah,
no.
there's a thing that you sometimes miss called context when you have minute clips. But yeah, I just always thought it was funny. So, but the overall point is that you all listen to this show, even if you're never on YouTube, because I'm never on YouTube. If you give us a subscribe, no one then can then come and say you have 25 followers, because that would not be true. Anyways, we are first
Jordan
off
was
season.
like, the point is,
Yeah, we have some news. We have some things to talk about. To be truthful,
before we get
as
into the
this
news,
is
before we get into the news, this is one thing I just want to address before we move to the news. Today is the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death. And not
that's
trying to
a
be dramatic,
depressing way to
not
start.
trying to be depressing or dramatic. This is actually me just saying, just taking a moment and saying, like, honoring his life, honoring his legacy, honoring the individuals that also passed away with him, because it wasn't just him. It was him. It was Gianna. It was a couple of parents and coaches, as well as the pilots on the helicopter. So just want to take a moment and just send my love and my energy to the Bryant family today and all of the families that have lost someone on this day. But there's also a Kobe Bryant documentary coming out, so get into that. But yes, today is the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death, and it's a very, very sad day. And it's been 5 years. So, what is your favorite Kobe memory?
How it's been 5 years makes no sense
I
to me.
know. I don't even believe he's dead still.
My favorite Kobe memory. That one's hard because Kobe's a player that like you always like loved and respect, but then also being from like Ohio, like he wasn't one of my heroes, and it went. And I don't really so much believe in like sports heroes, but like, like when you're in Ohio and you have like LeBron and you have like other people, like Kobe seems so far away.
Yeah.
Um, a particular thing, honestly, and like this is dumb, but I think one of my favorite Kobe sports memories is just his last game. Like
Yeah.
he was out there on fucking crutches. Like he was out there on crutches and dropped 60. But
Yeah.
honestly, I think and this is the about to be 30 in me. I think my favorite thing about Kobe is his transition out of sports, because like as you get older and you see these things, and like a bunch of people push back on me all this time because like I don't have any heroes, and it's like it's a quote, dog. Like just it's just a quote, but it's like you live it's what is it? It's you live long enough to see your heroes become villains.
Yeah.
I said that to my friend about somebody, and he was like, he was never my hero, and I'm like, bro, shut up. I know. Like it's just a quote,
Relax.
bro. Like
Relax.
I understand you've never liked this person specifically. It is just a quote, dog. But anyways, it's one of those things where it's like so many people that you grow up on, right? You're like, this person loved them, loved their music, loved this, and then you grow up and you're like, ooh, them charges, them allegations, them this, right? Like even like my problematic fave is 50 Cent, right? I love 50 Cent, but like every year it gets harder and harder
To like him. Oh, I
to
used to be
love
a Nicki
50
Minaj
Cent,
fan, and now here
you
we
know?
are. Yeah, I get you.
And so like, you know, like for Kobe to transition and to have this like, he's an asshole, he's this and competitor and all these other kind of things, and for him to transition into just being like a great dad and an active father in the way that he, which is you know, we're going to talk about this a little bit in our 2-minute warning, but also something that we always bring up on this show because of our interest in women's sports, the way that he championed
Ah,
women's
you took
sports,
mine.
in the way that he, sorry, in the way that he
Ah.
championed his daughters, and even pushed against the like all the time. It's like, oh, do you not want a boy? Do you not want? And like, I hate the like son father legacy thing. Like, I hate the
Yes.
father's legacy thing as a whole. But then the fact that like a daughter can't carry your legacy is fucking insane to me, and also super sexist. But just like that, you know, yeah. So I can't think because like I didn't grow up as like a Kobe fan per se. I don't have like these long list of things like I'll have when LeBron retires and D Wade retired and like some of these other people, but just kind of his whole career, and then specifically the end of his career, the last game, and how he just immediately transitioned And I mean, even like the way he died, which is so sad. The only reason he was in that helicopter is because he said, like, I want to be an active father and I have a crazy schedule. And so for the only way for me to be in my, like, I can't sit in traffic. The way for me to be in my daughter's life is to be like, I need to get on a helicopter so I can go practice at the end of my career.
Yeah.
But then I can also get to her games and be and coach her and be at these family events. You know, like that wouldn't have happened if he wasn't taking that active kind of role and trying to figure out a way to finish his career while also supporting his kids. So
yeah, that was beautiful wrap up of that was beautiful. My favorite, I have two, is obviously the 81-point game, because like, who does that?
And that was
like,
that was a, I'm not throwing no shade, but there's film of that one. I don't know if there's not film of that 100-point game. So
like, who does that? And then
I know that 81 was real.
yes, and then a particular memory that I just have personally is obviously when he dropped 62 on the Mavericks before the Mavericks were even able to score 62 as a team. So I just, as a Mavericks fan, it's just like, dang, like he is cooking us. We're getting cooked hibachi style. Word to Angel Reese. But yeah, that's my other thing too about him off the court. Like, just how much he championed women's sports, the relationships that he had, specifically with particular women's athletes. Like, it wasn't just like a glamour thing. He wasn't just coming and sitting, courtside. Like, he had a relationship with Diana Taurasi, Sabrina Ionescu, Jewel Lloyd, like all of these different major players in the WNBA now coined their names, the White Mamba, the Black Mamba, and the Golden Mamba. And was very, very like involved as an investor and, wanted to see the sport grow. I also respect, who he is as a businessman. I think he's one of the not first, but one of the more prominent athletes to show what can be done in business as athletes, like outside of sports. And so he was an investor in, what is the brand? I want to say Vitamin Water, and I don't think it's Vitamin Water, but
it's Body Armor.
Body Armor, which to me is one of my favorite isotonic beverages. It's way better than Gatorade.
Oh
Sorry.
my God, it is significantly
way better than Gatorade. It's way better than Powerade. It's way better than Propel. Like, Body Armor to me is one of the best isotonic beverages to hit the market. But stuff like that. Like, he just is a very savvy businessman. I love that he spoke multiple languages. A lot of people didn't know that about him, that he was like fluent in Italian and Spanish. He even was fluent in whatever language Luka Doncic speaks, which I'm not sure exactly what language that is. But if you've never read his book before, I would highly suggest reading his book. You will feel like you have to run through a freaking wall afterwards, but it's like the best kind of way. But yeah, I just wanted to take a moment and like have our Kobe moment. We don't talk about him a whole lot. I too, like, Kobe was a little bit before my time as far as like idolizing athletes, if you will. I hate to use the word idolizing, but like kind of like athlete fandom. Like, he was a little bit before my time. Like, I didn't get into basketball until like the later 2000s. So I'm more of like, Dirk raised me, you know what I mean? And I'm a Dallas girl. So Dirk raised me, but I like my cousins and my family, they were big Kobe people. So it was kind of like, Kobe is the best ever, like in my family. But yeah, I remember obviously like the latter part of his career, his last game, like all of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no. So RIP Kobe, RIP Gianna, RIP everyone else that was on that helicopter. Yeah, damn, that was depressing.
No, it wasn't. We had an honor. We were honoring a legend. That is not depressing. We were honoring a legend. Okay, now we'll get into the news because this is actually what's depressing. You wrote the news, so I don't even know what you're talking about with the first.
I got you. We're gonna take our break before we forget, and then we'll come back and we'll get into some of our news items. Which the first three are very sort of Ohio State specific, but they're also kind of specific to kind of where we are in the sport as a whole. So we'll be right back after our ad break to break down the news. I love that this show is on YouTube because I refuse to edit video. So the people on
that's
YouTube
gonna be there. This was like, bro,
my like For those of you who don't watch on YouTube, we're
Oh
trying to
my
be a
God.
professional podcast, and so we have some clips that we put in the beginning and the end. Like I made like a graphic kind of video thing, but then I also put it in the video podcast so people aren't just staring at us like they used to when we say that we're going on ad break, because you know to see how the
Professionalism.
sausage is made, we have to put in like actual ads into the audio. So like when we're recording video, we just like sit there and stare at each other. So did a thing, but it wasn't working. And so I'm
So
like
now me and Jordan are gonna look confused.
yeah.
I'm more so like laughing at the fact that we made the same face, which goes to show that we now have officially spent entirely too much time together, because we made the same face. We both were like, "What?" Anyways, if you don't watch us on video, don't worry about it. But if you want to see me and Jordan look confused, go find the video timestamped at 15:30 or something like that, and you will see that we were both very lost in the sauce. Okay, so.
So
in the news,
the first news item, I just wanted to talk about tampering in college football. Tampering is a subject in every sport, right? It's a subject in the NFL. It's a subject in basketball. It's a subject in baseball. It's basically, when a player is supposed to be a free agent or a trade or something like that, you're not allowed to talk to them. You're not allowed to come up with deals. You're not allowed to have these conversations. And specifically in college football, because you can't necessarily do this in other sports because of the contracts, you're not allowed to try to convince them to leave, right?
Yeah.
And in professional sports, there are like fines and things for even like mentioning players and saying certain things, like you're not supposed to do that. And here's the thing, we're not stupid. We all know it happens, right? If you pay attention to NFL and NBA free agency in particular, right? Like free agency will open on Tuesday, and on Sunday you'll have a report, and on Monday you'll have the figures. And it's like, oh, how did that happen? And the NFL specifically, there's like a tampering period, right? Like you sign the deals on Wednesday, I think it is, but on Monday and Tuesday you're allowed to negotiate, air quotes, but on Monday, as soon as it opens up, you hear reports of deals, and it's like, oh wow, this 5-year $150 million deal with with a player option, that's NBA, but like with all of these things in this upraised bonus and everything, it's like, that's so interesting. That deal took 5 minutes. It took 5 minutes for them to come to this
they
deal.
talk really fast.
They are so efficient. But and the college football in particular, because you have the all-time transfer and you have NIL, there is a major conversation around teams trying to convince players to go into the portal. We know that this happens specifically from higher to lower, right? If you are a really good player at insert directional school and insert Ohio State, Oregon, Bama, etc., once you're gonna get that call. And they're gonna be like, hey, gang, what's the point of rushing for 1,500 yards at insert directional school when you can do that at Bama, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State, whatever, and actually get to the NFL? So we know what happens. But at the same time, what is happening recently is big brand schools are also trying to tamper with big brand schools. If you are paying attention to college football news, which maybe you aren't because the season's over and it was already too long, there were reports that schools named Oregon, for one, Tennessee, Texas, some of these other schools were offering contracts up to $4.5 million for Jeremiah Smith to leave Ohio State. Other schools, insert those same schools, were offering contracts up to $1 million for Carnell Tate to leave Ohio State. And I'm sure that there are other players that were getting these sort of offers, but those were like the two big ones. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about that and give, my opinions on that in general. But what are your thoughts on tampering, especially in college football, but just in general?
I think there's no way to stop it. So, like, it's happening at all levels of sport.
Yeah.
and it's not going to stop happening.
It
So it's
happens
one
in
of
high
those things.
school.
Thank you. That's what I'm like. It's happening at
I,
levels of sport.
I'm sorry. I know you're from Texas. I don't know how much you pay attention to high school sports in Texas, but there are very few places where high school sports is as big as it is in
As it is
Texas.
here.
And
Yes.
Ohio is one of them. People don't recognize that, but it's because Ohio doesn't spend as much money as Texas on high, but like it is. And you have certain schools, cough, cough, Massillon, where they'll need a quarterback, and cough, cough, a quarterback will come from the middle of fucking nowhere, and their dad is now a teacher at the school.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how that happened. Don't know where that came from.
Now all of a sudden they got new addresses across the state.
Yeah,
because
now
yeah.
grandma lives there, right?
Now, now all of a sudden, yes.
Yeah.
So to me, like when it comes to tampering, like I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I care. I don't know. Like I hate to say it like that, but like I don't know if I care. Like I think at the end of the day, if an athlete feels like if they're even considering leaving one space to go to another space, there's not really much tampering at that point going on. You're just having a conversation. Like maybe I'm just like a little ignorant, or maybe not ignorant. I'm not ignorant. Hold on. Maybe I'm just a little naive, but I'm just kind of like, if they're already considering leaving and you get a call from a coach and they just talk to you about it.
The thing is for players who aren't considering leaving, like the two particular that I mentioned, like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate weren't considering leaving Ohio State. So they're getting calls that's like, hey, I will pay you this money if you leave. Like
but the thing about it is with that, like, that to me is expected when you are a high level athlete. That's expected. It's kind of the same thing like when you're coming out of high school. You're going to have a whole bunch of offers. You're going to have to be able to sort through them and decide on what you want to do. When you have great years, and now we're in this era of the transfer portal and NIL and all of this other stuff, that's what's going to happen is that other teams are going to want you. Other teams are going to make offers, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's a big of a deal. And just like you had mentioned, like in the NFL, in NBA, in whatever, blah, 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 like these contracts, they're already written.
Yeah.
They're already having these conversations. Even like, and this could be considered tampering, but even with the way that Unrivaled is set up for the 3v3 basketball, I think half of those people, not half, but a good majority, not even majority, excuse me, a good number of women who are playing Unrivaled right now are free agents, and some of them unrestricted free agents. And there are people from the front offices of WNBA teams in those crowds talking to them, courting them, and saying like, hey, what's going on? What you thinking? Blah, 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 blah. That could be considered tampering. But also, like, to me, tampering is only like an issue if it's like, how do I say this? If it really starts to affect like the competition value of it all. Like if it really is like there's one team that's getting all the talent, then I'd be like, oh, okay, this is a problem.
Yeah. So this is what I'll say. And I always feel like I have to preface this because someone's always going to come back with something that doesn't make any sense. Tampering is unfair, right? For the level of Kent State cannot have a star player without that player being taken by someone else. I understand the frustration for your Kents and your Ohio and your insert directional school.
Yes, but the Christian Methodist Episcopal School of Church of God in Christ. Yes,
like I get it. That's unfortunate, but at the same time, I also don't care because in most cases, that's what's better for the player. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's unfortunate, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
There's a kid, his name is CJ West. He left Kent, specifically went to Indiana. I don't know where he's going to get drafted, but he was amazing. He had a good year at Indiana. He's now going to get drafted. Like, I mean, it's true. It's going to happen, right? Like Will Howard, I understand they're not necessarily directional school, but Ohio State's here, Kansas State's there. Will Howard was not going to get drafted from Kansas State. He goes to Ohio State. And as much as no one wants to admit it, he had an amazing fucking season, and he's now going to get drafted. I don't know where he's going to get drafted, but there's talk about him getting drafted in the first round. And for everyone that's all shocked and all, JJ McCarthy got drafted in the first round. Personally, I would take Will over JJ. Personally, and I have a lot of reasons to back that up, and I will talk about that on this here podcast closer to the draft. I have a lot of reasons why I would take Will over JJ. I have a lot of reasons why I would take Will over Bo Nix. They were first round picks.
This here podcast.
Don't dismiss it too quickly. Don't dismiss it too quickly. And even if you do dismiss it, my favorite draft thing, tall, big, white with a strong handshake, that's the first round pick. He's 6'4", 230 with a strong handshake. He's getting drafted in the first round. I'm sorry. I know how they draft quarterbacks. I
want to go home and I'm at my house.
We've all seen it. We know he is gonna get into an interview room. He's gonna walk in all 6'4", 230 with a strong handshake, and someone's gonna be like, "That's a fucking leader. that's a quarterback." I'm sorry. That's how Will Levis got drafted.
My God.
What are you talking about? We don't gotta be naive. We know what happens in these rooms.
Oh my God.
Anyways, sorry.
This is why we need DEI. Anyway.
But so like I get it. There are levels of tampering that's unfair. To get to the point that I want to get to though, Oregon to Ohio State to Alabama, Alabama to Ole Miss.
Y'all were just
Texas,
passing around players
Texas
that would have came.
Georgia. I don't give a fuck about that.
Y'all were just passing them around. Yeah.
So, and my thing is, right, they offered Jeremiah Smith 4.5, right? Supposedly. They offered Carnell Tate $1 million, supposedly. Guess who didn't leave? Because my thing is, I have two opinions on this, especially as an Ohio State fan, and for those of Georgia, Texas, Bama, all like, right, if you're a fan of someone else, you may not be in this conversation. I apologize. It is unfair to you all. If you have the money, so don't be broke, and you have the culture, they won't leave. That is my opinion. I believe that Ohio State has a good culture. They're also not broke. If that player comes to you and says they're offering me $1 million, and you say, "Here's $1 million," all things even, if your coaching staff and your culture and your relationships in your room, if all things are equal, you should have the ability to match. If you match and they still leave, that says something to you about you.
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, sometimes players just want money, right? Right? Why does Carmelo Anthony not have a ring? And this is not shade. I love Melo, but why does he not have a ring? Because he was a poor kid
where the money was,
who went where the money was, and he had. And I've heard him talk about podcasts. I don't think he has regrets on that, right?
No,
there are
not
a
at
lot
all.
of players who chase the bag over rings, and then you see them when they get to 35, and they're like, "I got the bag. Now let me go be a third option or fourth option to try to get a ring." So, like, also with these high school kids, who some of them won't make it to the NFL, and if they do, they won't be successful. Just statistics. I'm never going to be mad at them for chasing the money. I'm not. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I also don't care on that aspect. But if Jeremiah Smith left Ohio State for money, that is Ohio State's fault. That is my opinion.
I agree.
With Carnell Tate, specifically Carnell Tate, who was a third receiver at Ohio State, and this is sorry for all the Ohio State in this very quickly. Ohio State is a school, and this is one of my very few complaints about Brian Hartline. He almost never plays a third receiver. Like, they're on the field, but if you look at the statistics, it'd be like 1,300 yards, 1,100 yards, 200 yards. Like, he don't give a fuck about his third receiver. Carnell Tate is, under Brian Hartline, is the second most successful third receiver. The only other one was Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's Jackson Smith and Jigba, Carnell Tate, and then everybody else has like 200 yards. Like, I'm not. I've looked at this. I'm not kidding. So Carnell Tate had like 700 yards, 700 yards, and like 5 touchdowns. That is a good year for a third receiver at Ohio State. So if he looks at that and he says other guys are leaving, which means next year I am 100% the second option. It is me and Jeremiah. And then he looks at the history of Ohio State and he sees receiver 1, 1,300 yards, receiver 2, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns. Like, he sees this through the years. He knows that if he's healthy, he is guaranteed 1,000 yards and like 8 touchdowns at Ohio State. That is what happened for the second receiver. And $1 million is enough for him to leave. That's Ohio State's problem.
He didn't want no parts of it. Yeah.
It's Ohio State's problem because you clearly did not. You either didn't match, you didn't value him, or your culture is not as big as you think it is.
Yeah,
because like that's the thing. That's where I feel about it. And again, I understand that doesn't affect. But if someone leaves Georgia for $1 million and Georgia has $1 million, that is on Georgia. Now,
I guess that's what I'm saying. Georgia, I don't care because I'm just kind of like, that's
now,
your fault.
If they leave Georgia for 2.5 and Georgia don't want to give 2.5, all right, hey, there are some players I wouldn't give that money to. It happens in the NFL. It happens in the NBA. Somebody gets a contract, and you like, I wouldn't have given that. So I hear the complaints about tampering from the little brothers, but at the end of the day, I'm sorry, it's just going to be that way. Like, and in a lot of cases, that is what's better for the players. But from the equal, I don't give a fuck that Oregon called. I would call. You tell me you're not calling Jeremiah Smith after what he did 2 years?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you have athletes, but to the point of like the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church of God in Christ, Missionary Holy Water Technical Colleges, like, I get it. I understand that if you do get a good recruit, it's more difficult to get one. So when you have the bigger schools calling, that's an issue. I do understand that. I don't know. I don't necessarily have a course of action for that. I really, really don't. Because I will say, if it does become that where there's a lot of cherry picking from smaller schools, like if it's something that's continuously happening where the bigger schools are just usurping guys from the smaller schools, I will say that will be an issue eventually. But also,
I mean, but that's always happened.
But that's always going to happen though. Like, because even if it's not a team calling them up, even if it's them saying, hey, I think I'm better than this, I'm entering the transfer portal, I'm going to Oregon, like that's still like the same thing in a sense. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's levels to it, but I mean, if it's from Oregon to Bama to here to there to all of these, big name schools that are known for that have the funding, and y'all just that to me at that point we're having like, it's like the NFL, like y'all just passing them around at that point. Like
it's just like if T Higgins goes somewhere and balls out because the Bengals didn't want to pay him, that's on the Bengals.
That's on the Bengals. Y'all should have wrote that check. Like,
step your money up. And I do understand in certain places, right? Like it is even more than others. It's a privilege to be an Ohio State fan because we have the money and we have the coaches and the development, and we also have the city of Columbus, which you know what I mean? Like, yeah, Alabama's cool, but if you from Atlanta, or you from Dallas, or you from whatever, do you want to be in backwater Bama or do you want to go to Columbus? Like,
yeah,
I understand that.
Is Bama even situated?
Backwater.
Yeah, see, no.
But like, and of course, I mean, they still get their recruits, so it doesn't matter that much.
Well, because of the name, though. Let's be serious. It's because of the house that Nick Saban built. At this point, anybody wants to go to Bama. It's kind of the same thing with once Gino Auriemma decides not to be the coach at UConn women's anymore, it's going to be the house that Gino built. Like that's what it is. Tennessee is the house that Pat Summitt built. Like we get it. We know.
Yeah.
Like
but Tennessee's in Knoxville. Is Knoxville a city? Okay, we're not.
But it's not. It's not.
Yeah, we're not.
You know what I'm saying? Like UConn is up in the freaking
I know. I was just
woods of Connecticut.
I was gonna spiral trying to figure out how big Knoxville is, so I had to get off of it.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like those more rural areas, like you're going because of obviously the brand at that point. Because who the hell wants to be in the middle of nowhere to play football? Like that was one of my main things when I was looking at colleges. Was like my sister went to Stephen F. Austin. You know where Stephen F. Austin is?
Somewhere in Texas.
It's in Texas. It's in Nacogdoches. That's what it's called. Nacogdoches, Texas. The people who go to SFA call it Naca Nowhere because there is literally nothing there. And I went to visit her and I was like, how are you surviving when there's only like a Walmart and like a couple of bars and like it is the true definition of a college town. I was like, then I have to go to school in the city. Like
a lot of schools like that in Ohio.
I have to go to school in the city. Like I'm not about to do these. I'm not about to play these games. Like I'm gonna come up missing. Like no.
Quick personal note, just because it's funny. I obviously work in higher education, and I have essentially committed that I'm gonna follow my wife around because it's not that cute. She's not moving where I could go. Like you know what I mean? Like and like listen, I have friends in higher education. I have friends who went from Pittsburgh to this place, like, and a lot of times with a lot of things, like to move up with anything, you have to be willing to move.
Yeah. And
so, like, I had a friend that got a job at a school. I think it was like Mississippi or something like that. And I'm just like, that's not an option
going
for
no Mississippi. She is not going for no Mississippi.
That is not an option for your boy. I better get real good at my job so I get hired in a city.
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like I had to be real good at my job so I could find a job in New York City because going to bumfuck
is not an option.
That's nowhere. Don't matter how much they pay. That's not a job I can accept.
Living in a rural area, like No, I'm sorry. Like, no. Anyways, the point is, if it's from big team to big team, that is definitely their fault. I definitely 100% agree with you.
Ohio State stepped their cookies up, and they didn't lose either of them.
Step them cookies up. But that team was that was a $20 million roster that y'all had that won the championship anyway. So clearly they're showing that they're willing to invest.
So, but here's the funny thing, and I know everyone said this. The teams complaining about Ohio State being a $20 million roster, Ohio State wasn't the most expensive roster.
No, they weren't.
It was third or fourth. But then also, everyone complained about it. And then those same schools, like, for example, Oregon, which is crazy that they talked about it because they actually spent more money. And then they're the ones offering $4.5 million for one player. I can do quick math. $4.5 million, that's
per person.
That's a fourth of 20 mil. What's one player? That's a fourth. 5 times 4 is 20. So, like, what are we talking about? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like that whole thing always like annoyed me, especially because like I think the statistics were like 19 in the playoffs. 19 of Ohio State's 22 starters were high school recruits, and 2 of our transfers got injured. So it would have been 17 because we had a transfer at center and a transfer at left tackle. So it would have been 17 of 22 instead of 19. But it was 5. Like day 1, season 1. Game 1, there were 5 starting transfers on this team, and everybody else
were guys that y'all got traditionally.
And actually, to be fair, it was 4 because one of them transferred, but this was his second year in the program. Like we're talking about, like from last year to this year, it was Will Howard, Seth McLaughlin, and Caleb Downs. We also got a tight end, but I don't know if he started. He played, but I don't know if he started. So it was like 3 guys that we added that started for us. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. I just thought that was funny. But, yeah.
Anyway, right.
There's going to be a lot of complaining about tampering and this, that, and the third. And I don't want to hear nothing from Ohio State.
Get your collectives and get
I don't want to hear nothing from Oregon. I don't want to hear nothing from Bama. I don't want to hear nothing from Ole Miss. I don't want to hear nothing.
Again,
get your money up. Stop
if
being
it
broke.
Is, the International Christian School of Methodist Theology Technical State College, sorry about y'all. Yeah. But I mean, this is just where we're at now. Like, if you are a player that's worth something, you're going to get offers. You're going to get calls. You're going to get all the way down to from high school at this point. Like, that's the landscape that we're in. If you are at a school that's smaller and you have the potential to transfer and you are doing well, you're going to get called. That is just, that's the landscape. That is the landscape, period, point blank. That's where we're at.
Yeah. I'm also like multitasking, and I'm listening to Ohio State's national championship celebration that's on, and they just announced that they're working on a contract extension for Ryan Day, which we knew, you know what I mean? Like, we knew national championship, but it's just funny that they mentioned it. The one thing that I'll say, just because I mentioned Ryan Day and I mentioned culture, it is known that Ohio State, it is also known that when Nick Saban was there, that they did not pay the most. They paid, but they did not pay the most. Ohio State loses recruits to Oregon. We lost 2 or 3 recruits to Oregon this year because we would not pay them the most. But what you do get is you get very good players who get paid very well and then become first-round picks. And there are schools that do that, and you're always going to have players who you don't get because they want the money, and I'll never fault them for that. But I think at Ohio State, at Bama under Nick Saban, at some of these other schools, to find the guys who are like, I will take $250,000 less because of what I'm going to get out of this program and this long-term planning. And like, those are the kind of guys that you want. Like, I hate when people, because I don't super follow recruiting, but I hate when people are like, we didn't want that guy anyway. That's not true. But I do believe, especially when money's involved, there is a certain kind of person and a certain kind of family that you want, and that it is okay to not pay certain kids. Not that kid's fault. I will never be mad at someone chasing money, but it is okay to lose someone because they don't fit the culture that
they're looking for the zeros.
And at the same time, it is okay to look for the zeros.
Yeah. It's both attitudes are perfectly fair because especially now with how much potential these young men and women athletes have to make from NIL, like you of course are going to have there's people who went pro because they want money. They didn't go pro because of the love of the game. So I think it's so silly when people are like, oh, these kids, they just want money. Nikola Jokic gets on Beyonce's internet every day and tells us how much he don't give a damn about everything else. He comes, he plays the basketball, he throws one of the longest shots in NBA history across the court because that is his job. Not because, oh my God, I just love basketball and I wake up and I breathe and I bleed orange and all this other stuff. So like, I think it's incredibly disingenuous. Ooh. I think it's incredibly
got her.
I think it's incredibly
it's incredibly
it's incredibly disingenuous to look at players or athletes on any level of sport and side-eye them for wanting money, especially and I hate this whole narrative that it's because they all came from nothing, because not all of them came from nothing, but it's just the matter of if I have a high earning potential, then what's my earning potential? What y'all trying to give me? What's the numbers? What are how many commas are we talking?
I'll be successful in the league and I'll continue to make this money, so let me get it now.
And let me get it now. Or some of them, this is the only time that they're going to be able to make this type of money. So let them capitalize on that because they're probably not going pro, or that's not what they want to do, or they'd rather invest, or they'd rather do whatever else. Like these athletes still deserve to be paid. One athlete in particular, like Angel Reese had Skylar Diggins-Smith on her podcast the other day, and Skylar kind of popularized like the basketball headband. Like she needed a headband one day. She put it on because her hair was on her face. But at the time, it was a volleyball headband. She wore it. It became so popular that Adidas worked with her to make basketball headbands that they made in different colors and different things and all of that. That girl didn't make a dime off of that.
Crazy.
She didn't make a dime off of that. Like, are you joking? Are you actually joking? Because a lot of these athletes, too, are pop culture individuals as well. When you're talking about social media, when you're talking about all this other stuff, like they deserve to make money when the school is making money off of them, which is why I'm so happy that NIL exists. I know it needs some regulation and shit, but like Jesus, like you guys are literally putting these athletes out here. They're putting their bodies on the line. The least you could do is compensate them for the amount of money that they are bringing into your programs. And I am specifically talking about those big schools, those Oregons, those Ohio States, those Bamas, those whatever. Y'all have made money hand over fist off of these athletes. Like, period. So if an athlete is asking about money and what it is and how much are they getting paid and whatever, blah, 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 those are fair questions. And honestly, these programs need to have some damn answers, especially, I know it's a bigger thing in the Southern schools, but especially like with the collectives, like, that's what the collectives are for, is to provide funding for the athletes to be paid. That's a very fair question to say, what is being provided to me fiscally? Like, that's fair. Yeah. But anyways, okay, we've been talking about tampering forever.
I figured that one. The other ones are super quick. Jim Knowles, the best defensive coordinator in college football, is also being tampered with. Penn State, Notre Dame, and I don't remember the other schools, but it doesn't matter. There are multiple schools that are trying to hire him away from Ohio State. I'm hoping that does not happen. The other one's Oklahoma. I'm hoping that does not happen because I don't understand why you would take a lateral move, especially because, again, Ohio State's not broke. And a report came out that Ohio State just offered him a contract to make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country. As they should. You know what I'm saying? Like, they should have done that anyway, but when Penn State
one of the best defense in the country.
But when these other schools keep calling, you got to keep him. So I think he'll stay, but there's a lot of schools that are trying to get him. I can't imagine that he'll leave. There's a lot of talk about him going to Oklahoma because his fiance lives in Oklahoma. And it's like, oh, but what about Love? And I'm like, okay, here's two things about Oklahoma. One,
what about Love is crazy.
One, there's two things about Oklahoma. One, the head coach is a defensive guy. Most defensive coordinators at his level don't want to work for a defensive head coach because he's going to be in your room, and you don't want that. Ryan
Yeah.
Day is not in that room outside of saying, here's my view from an offensive perspective. When Ryan Day hired him, he literally was like, I want a head coach of the defense. Ryan Day don't bother him.
Go do your thing.
The second thing is love goes both ways. Could she not love him enough to move to Columbus? Like, why he gotta love her enough to move to
Could
Oklahoma?
she not love him enough? This is crazy. This is not our business.
Like,
this is just not our business.
Like, why are we on like, oh, but what about his fiance? I'm sorry. Columbus and $3 million seems like a good enough thing for her to move to. Like, I don't know if his fiance is the only reason he's looking at jobs. That's all I'm saying. Like, and maybe it is, and maybe he leaves, maybe he doesn't. I'm not gonna fault him either way. I'll be a little sad if he leaves, but whatever. But I think he'll stay. The coach that I don't know if he'll stay is offensive coordinator Chip Kelly is getting interest from like 5 NFL teams to be the offensive coordinator. He has worked in the NFL. And
I was like, I've heard his name
he was the head
before,
coach. Yeah, he was the head coach of the Eagles, and he was the head coach of the 49ers for a year. But he was at the Eagles for a couple of years. And objectively, the NFL's a better job. Like, they pay a lot of money, but also you don't have to do recruiting and all these other kind of things.
Yeah.
I don't know if he stays. I think we keep Jim. I don't know if Chip stays, but that's what happens when you win. Speaking of winning, although they didn't get the national championship, but winning because they were very good. Notre Dame lost their defensive coordinator, Al Golden. He took the Bengals defensive coordinator job. They also lost their like head recruiting guy whose name that I can't remember, but he got hired to USC. So when you win, people want a piece of it. People want your staff. People want your players. You're fighting. And the last piece of news that I have, which because we're going to be talking about Penn State a lot, because they doubled up. They did with Michigan. Michigan brought all their seniors back, and they won a championship. Ohio State brought all their seniors back. They won a championship. Penn State is bringing their seniors back, and they're trying to win a championship. But the thing that is stepping the way for that is their defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, got hired to Clemson. There's one person in particular, and I mention him like occasionally because he talks to me all the time that listens to this show. Shout out to him. He gave me his theory that he thinks he was pushed out of Penn State because the defense wasn't as good as it has been, which I think is hilarious because I thought he was a bad hire. I think Penn State's defense kind of coaches itself to like there's a baseline that they're always going to be at. But then when you look at like them losing to Notre Dame, you look at them losing to Oregon and the number of points that they gave up, his thought was like, defense wasn't that great. And so maybe they pushed him out, which I think is hilarious. The other reason, even if that's not true, the other reason that he left is because, first of all, and always have to be careful with how you say this, but he's super like Christian, super religious, and so is Dabo. And also his family, his daughters live in South Carolina. Clemson is in South Carolina. I mentioned that because a lot of people don't know that because where the hell is Clemson? I love a school that has the state's name.
Where
because I don't know where any of these states. Like give me an Alabama.
Where is it?
Georgia. Give me an Ohio State. Tell me where your school is. But Clemson is in South Carolina.
Where is it?
But he also partially left because his family's in South Carolina as well. So that is one of the things that like, and it sucks for James Franklin because he's lost 3 straight defensive coordinators to head to different jobs. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill that. Knock on wood, not with Jim Knowles, how they fill that, because that's going to be a big factor to if they can win. And that's the news. Any final thoughts on any of these coaches or changes or news?
One piece of news that I thought you were going to put in here is, I'm gonna mess up that baby's name because it's just such a strong, beautiful name that his mother gave him. Quinshawn Judkins.
No, you're right, Judkins. It's funny you actually messed up the last name and not the first name. It's
I know, which is ghetto. No, his last name is not ghetto. It's ghetto that I messed it up. It's ghetto that I messed it up. His name is not ghetto. I don't believe in ghetto names. He declared for the draft.
Yes. I did not mention that just because we would have to go through all of these players.
No. I just wanted to mention him. We can talk about the draft later, but I was just like, I thought you would bring it up today because it just happened a couple of days ago. But the only other news that I have that I just would like to express my feelings about is the Dallas Cowboys hired somebody.
They did.
We hired someone for our head coach. He was our offensive coordinator, even though he was not calling the plays. And it is officially doomsday. It has already been doomsday. Like, I've already been in a sense of we are downwardly spiraling. We are becoming the Jaguars. We are out in the ocean floating with no life support whatsoever. And with all of these great candidates that we could have interviewed, that we could have, like, it's not like there's not any head coaching talent out there that we could not have gleaned from. I knew we weren't hiring Dion. I needed everybody to calm down about that. I knew that wasn't happening. But for you to just look within and be like, let's get our useless offensive coordinator and make him the head coach, that to me is signing and stamping the fact that we are fully going to decline to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, period, like historically speaking, because we already have the longer stretch of time without making it to a conference championship. It's 29 seasons. We will now go down in history as one of the worst teams in the NFL. I'm stamping it right now. We will break, set, and create new records for bad football. So, not excited about that. Sorry, I'm not excited about that. I am entering the transfer portal for fandoms. So hearing all offers for fandom of other teams. I do have some teams that are blacklisted. I will never be a Chiefs fan. Sorry about you. I will never be an Eagles fan. I will never be a Green Bay Packers fan. So none of that. I'm not wearing cheese on my head, but I am open to fandoms of all other teams. I think my top prospects right now, Ravens, Lions, and Commanders. So I can't deal.
Commanders up.
I just can't deal. Jaden Daniels has more playoff wins in 5 months than Dak Prescott does in 9 seasons. So, just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Jordan doesn't care.
No. I mean, I care about you. I also love the Cowboys' dysfunction.
I hate it. I'm tired of it. I hate it and I'm tired of it because it's one of those things what's so irritating about it is the dichotomy of Jerry Jones's sheer and utter genius when it comes to business and what he's been able to do for this brand, how he's been able to, Jerry Jones, a lot of people don't realize this. He's the reason why we have such thing as like the official pizza of the NFL, the official whatever of the NFL, like whatever. He's the one who created those sponsorship and marketing like categories, basically, because he was like, I can make money from all these people. Why do I gotta just pick one, right? So
I didn't know that.
He's kind of the one who kind of came up with that whole concept because basically he was trying to get team sponsorships. And at the time, the NFL did not allow for team sponsorships. And so he created this really just read up on him in business. A lot of the modern sports world and what it looks like has a lot to do with Jerry Jones's business acumen. And that's what makes it so annoying. The dichotomy of this being a great business and it being a multi-billion-dollar brand, but we're not winning. That is so frustrating that the blue star is always going to be the blue star, that people are always going to be into it. People are always going to love it. People are always going to spend their money on it because it's such a huge brand. But when it comes down to the field product, girl.
Yeah.
So that's all.
Yeah. So as we transition to our 2-minute drill, which is going to be about the NFL, very, very, very. Let's hopefully keep this to 2 minutes. Your new team, Commanders. I hope that you don't mind that I picked it for you. And the only reason I picked it for you is because I also love the Commanders and Jaden Daniels, and it's hard to root for the Ravens, but I'm largely joking. It's mainly just because I have a bunch of friends from the DMV area, and so of course the Ravens and Commanders fans, and they are like living right now, and it is so crazy what happens when you get a rampant sexist, misogynist, rapist out of your program. Maybe the Cleveland Browns should try that as well.
That might be an idea.
You do that, and you treat the women in your organization like they're human, and you also, outside of that, which is most important, you also then make sound business decisions, and you start to win. Crazy, right?
It's literally insane.
but yeah, so I follow the NFL. I don't follow it as much. I'm not going to do a breakdown because ew. But I am going to go to the bar today to watch these games. Do you have any thoughts and or picks about the Commanders versus the Eagles?
Oh, I love the Commanders right now. I love them. I like them. I like what they're doing. They beat the Eagles earlier this season with a walk-off touchdown in the last 2 minutes. So the way that I see it, the Commanders can beat the Eagles. They can. The Eagles are also not scrubs. The Eagles are actually kind of a squad right now. They're kind of stacked. So I also don't put anything past them. But I did see a report the other day that Jalen will be playing on a hurt knee. So I don't know how much that's going to affect him. But he's also a really great quarterback as well. But I'm just living for the Commanders. I'm just living for them. I'm living for their resilience. I'm living for their, they take care of the ball for the most part. They don't get a whole lot of turnovers. So I'm here for it. I love it. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch this game in particular. The Chiefs and the Bills, I know we're about to get there. Girl, I don't care. But yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah. I think that I like everything about the Commanders, but the name. I really wish they would have committed to Washington Football Team. I really did enjoy that.
Really?
Yeah, I
that is so funny.
Football Team.
I like the Commanders. I think it's a cute name. I'm here for it.
Gross. Disgusting. I don't want any of that.
You get it Commander, command the field, okay.
Like Commander in Chief.
See, I wasn't even going there. That's
where it came from. That's where it came from. You talking about command the field. They talking about they're in DC. It's talking about.
I understand where they're localized. I just don't want to think about the association with.
And when they go back to Washington Football Team, you won't have to. Yeah. So, it's hard to root. So I don't have a real reason for this. I'm not really an Eagles fan. But I don't really have a reason to I don't actively dislike the Eagles as far as other teams, but
I do.
I've never really thought about the Commanders, so it's easy to just be like, I hope they win because whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be cool if Jalen Hurts got a natty, not a natty. Jesus, too much college football. A Super Bowl. It would be cool
in the NFL.
It would be cool if Saquon Barkley got one. I want to give a shout out to Saquon because I've never been a big Saquon fan. Not as a person. He seems like a great human. I don't like his style of play. And then he went to the Eagles that had a real offensive line, and he's fucking amazing. So
literally amazing.
Yeah. So whatever. And then
whatever.
Chiefs Bills. I'm actively rooting for the Chiefs. To win. I do not care about the Bills. I do not care about Josh Allen. And I'm sorry, I don't want Josh Allen to be validated when he gets Lamar's MVP.
I know.
I don't dislike Josh Allen in particular.
Yeah, he's fine.
But
beautiful gowns.
I don't care. And so give me Patty. Give me Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean?
Patty is nuts.
Black Kelsey showed up in the playoffs. You didn't notice? He got his hair lined up again, and he came wearing he came wearing streetwear. You know what I mean? He Kelsey. First of all, he's from Cleveland. So, and he's all I didn't know that. A lot of people try to do this thing with Kelsey where they're like, he's appropriating Black culture and all. I don't think that. He's always very much been himself. He's always very much been white. His appearance changes based on if he's dating a Black or a white girl, though.
Yes.
Which I also understand as someone who takes fashion advice from my wife, right? You know what I mean? I don't believe that women should dress to impress men, but I dress to impress women. What do you want me to wear? What, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't matter. But I just always think it's funny because one day he's just like, what are you wearing? He's growing his beard out and his hair's long. And the next day he has a taper fade and he's wearing Gucci or something like that.
Oh my God, I hate it.
Black Kelsey showed up for the playoffs. But yeah, I mean, Josh Allen can win one eventually, right? Sure. But I think that this is Lamar's MVP, and he's not going to get it. And if Josh Allen wins an MVP and goes to the Super Bowl, we're never going to have to stop hearing about him. And so Mahomes is already here. Mahomes is already here. Just,
I am getting into the feeling that I had about the Patriots at a certain point in my life, and that is how I'm starting to feel about the Chiefs. And you can call me a hater all day. But it's just one of those things where I'm just sick of them. Like, I'm just sick of them. And it's great for them, right? It's great for the franchise. I can understand from like a standpoint of like Kansas City kind of went from like not winning and nobody giving a crap to like literally being one of the best football teams of the last like decade. So like love that for them, truly. But like I'm just tired. I'm tired. I'm weary. I'm exhausted. I don't want to see them in the Super Bowl anymore. Like I just don't. So as much as I don't want to root for Josh Allen and the Bills, especially given the context of what's going on right now with Lamar and the way that they've been comparing them in inexplicable ways, still coming to the conclusion that Josh Allen is better, which is crazy to me. I just can't with the Chiefs anymore. Like I just can't. Like there's already they already got a holding call. Like the Bills already have a holding call. There's already been a PI called. There's already been like someone's already gotten ejected. Like it's one of those things too where it does very much feel like the Chiefs have been, not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I don't believe that officials are these neutral parties that have no stakes in anything. Like I just don't believe that. I've seen too many officials flub up games in too many different sports to see them as these neutral individuals. Like I don't see that. Now I get that like you got to make a decision in that moment and whatever. Like I get it. I'm an official too, but like I just feel like there have been so many times when the Chiefs have won games or had certain outcomes off the backs of crazy officiating. So for me, I'm just kind of like, I'm just over it. Like I'm just over the circus. So I'm not rooting for the Bills, but I'm not rooting for the Chiefs. I'm actually still trying to figure out if there's a way that both of the teams lose.
Like, please, is that possible? Can we just get an Eagles Commanders Super Bowl?
Can we just get that? Yeah, like I don't, so. But since that's not possible, and one of them has got to win, I like a Commanders Bills Super Bowl. I would like that very much. I don't want the Eagles in the Super Bowl because the feelings that you have towards the Eagles are the opposite of mine. I am a Cowboys fan still at the end of the day. So there's just never going to be a day where I'm going to root for the Eagles. And it sucks because I love Jalen Hurts, but as long as he has an Eagles jersey on, I can't root for him. It's kind of the same thing with Saquon. As long as he has the Eagles jersey on, I just can't get into it. I just can't.
Yeah, I understand. Also, do you care at all as the person that likes history and facts that the Chiefs could be the first team in the NFL to ever three-peat?
I care in that sense. Like I love history. Yes, I love history. I think it's great. But also, Jaden could be the first rookie quarterback in the Super Bowl. So
you said there's other history. Move on. Got you. I understand. I understand. No, I got you. You said there's
if they three-peat, like obviously there's going to be a level of respect that I'll have, for them for a very, very long time. I think it's kind of ridiculous for them to kind of sort of make this into then Patrick Mahomes will be, hailed as the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm sorry. I still think that's Tom Brady. As much as I don't like that man, I still think that's Tom Brady. Like, sorry. But yeah, like that would be super cool to say like there's this team that three-peated in the Super Bowl. But to me, like, also back to what I was saying about the officiating and also back to what I was saying about some of the games that I feel like they didn't really have no business winning. So that's the thing that kind of like taints it for me is like, why does it feel like everybody's trying to get y'all to like, it feels like this is and we know this, there's a lot of sports moments. As much as I love history, I can also recognize there's a lot of sports moments that are manufactured. They manufactured that LeBron and Bronny moment. They knew Bronny wasn't ready to play professional sports. He's doing great now. He's doing great now. But they knew that he wasn't ready to play at that level, but they manufactured that moment. They needed that LeBron James and LeBron James Jr. moment. They needed that. Yeah. So to me, I don't know. They might be trying to manufacture this three-peat in a way that I'm not really rocking with, but yeah, there's other history to be made. It'll be cool though, like if it happens. Love that for them.
Yeah, for sure. We don't need to be having an hour and 30-minute podcast in the off season. So I think we can skip the next two things and talk about them. We have so much to talk about.
We have so much we can talk about. Yeah.
Like we need to spread some things out. So we'll save our thoughts on the 12-team playoffs specifically. But the season's over. This is the first of our off-season podcast. Ohio State's the national champion, in case you forgot. And so I have one thing that I want to say about this, but before I say that, because I want to pull up this graphic, because I forgot to pull it up. Any final thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, anything about the 2024 college football national championship?
Here's the thing. I came into this show as I don't really watch college football. I'm not how many times have I said I'm not a college football historian? I've said it many, many times because, girl, I'm not. And also, just to be clear for weirdos, I am not calling Jordan girl. Just so y'all know, girl is a filler word. I'm a gay woman. I'm doing my best. We say girl, honey, child. Listen, I came into this fully expecting to just be like, okay, I'm gonna watch the college football. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be interesting. Like, I never hated it. I just didn't watch it fully. So I'm walking away from this like a full blown like college football like fan. Like, I'm kind of like, okay, like I'm gonna watch it next year. Like, I'm gonna pay attention. I ain't watching all of y'all. I'm so sorry. I'm not watching the Southern, Christian Methodist Episcopal Church of God in Christ Technical State College, like I said, but I am very much interested in how the playoffs is going to continue to evolve, because I know that this is a process that they will continue to tweak. I also have been so overjoyed to not only experience my first season truly paying attention to college football as a holistic experience, but I got to do that at the same time as my team, my alma mater, becoming one of the 12 teams in that playoff. Like, that was not something I came into this show expecting at all. I mean, I said it at the beginning of the show that I was like, listen, we're gonna go 7-5 and it's gonna be great. And I love that for us. And and I mean, we were undefeated in the conference. Like, that's crazy for up until when Clemson beat us. But like, that's crazy. And I love that for us. And that's what this shit's all about. Like, to work in alumni relations, which is what I do, and we both work in higher ed, but to work in alumni relations and to see the level of excitement and energy and money and things that we were able to raise just because we had a good football team, like, that shit matters, dude. Like, this shit fucking matters. So those are my final thoughts.
Yes, I'm glad that was my goal this season. And I say this to everyone. If you don't like college football, it's because you don't watch or you don't understand. And not that you don't understand football because you watch the NFL. And
you just don't understand the vibes.
The royal you, not again you in particular, but also you fit this in a way like you don't understand the intricacies of college football. And so if you view college football from the lens of the NFL, it's easy to not like it. I definitely get that. But if you understand the intricacies and you get into the things that make it special, and you also don't view it from this kind of like clinical surgical lens, it's like, yeah, the game, like there are upsets and people make mistakes, but she's like, yeah, but that's what makes it fun. Like, you kind of like tweak it. Like,
you never know what's going to happen because it's not as predictable as
whereas most times if you're watching the NFL,
they're going to make the point after.
And it's like I don't bet, right? But I don't like all the NFL lines are 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, right? The most you get is like 6.5 or 7, right? I feel like every single NFL game ends. It doesn't matter. The Chiefs play the worst team in the league and they win 27-20, and it's like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? And so, if I could turn you into a college football fan, I can do it to anyone. I contend if you like football and don't like college football, it is because you don't understand the intricacies of the sport. And if you watch it, you'll love it. Maybe it won't replace the NFL, right? There's a lot of history and love in the NFL and things like that, but you'll at least enjoy it. And
I think it's also good that you caught me on a down year with the Cowboys, because I needed to watch good football somewhere. Yeah. And it was not obviously going to be over there. Like,
it's facts. My final thoughts of the season is, Ohio State's national champion. Shout out to that. I love that.
Period.
It's been a decade. This was fun. College football is always fun for me, but this was fun. I like the year. We'll give more thoughts on the 12-team playoff, but I love the playoffs. I love that there were more teams involved. I hated every single broadcast on ESPN talked about the playoff, but that's going to happen with ESPN.
Jesus. From game one, it was like, the 12-team playoff. Like, calm down.
Hand up, I'm a hater. I love that I didn't have to listen to RG3. Got him up out of here. Got him up out of here.
Bro, he
RG3
keeps
back
trying to
in the
talk about
air.
women's sports, and I
Got
want him
him
to
up out of
stop.
here. I
Stop,
can't
RG3.
stand.
Please stop talking about women's sports. You do not know what you're talking
I
about.
can't
Please stop.
stand when he talks. Got him up out of here. Emmanuel Acho, you next.
Get him off of my television screen.
Emmanuel Acho, you are next.
Oh my gosh.
Here.
Get him off my television screen. Get him off my phone screen. Get him.
Yeah.
You also, Emmanuel, need to stop talking about sports in general, but you need to stop talking about women's sports because you also do not know what you're talking about.
Yes. Got him up out of here. But yeah, it was just fun. I loved it. I love that we had, and again, so many episodes in the off season. We'll go into this further, but I love that we got Boise. We got Aston Genty. We got Travis Hunter, right? Like this was a year that
closest Heisman race in history.
You got to see things that don't happen. The 12-team playoff. We got to see Arizona State, right? And Cam Scottaboo, right? It's just it was awesome. A fun year, and this is why we love college football, and it is. I always joke about how hard it is to do this podcast in the off season, and it is very hard at times. But also shout out to this podcast for like keeping college football around because we are about to enter the dark depression. And this is for me. I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking about, although that is true. I mean the sports depression.
I know what you're talking about.
I don't follow sports as much as college football. I will of course be watching Unrivaled. I'll of course be watching March Madness. I'll of course be watching the WNBA. One of the good things about living in New York is there's a team 10 minutes away from me. Like I will be going and bringing some friends, and hopefully DJ will come and visit, and we can go to a game. Like there will be like yes. I will be watching that, but it is not the same. But you know, I will have 8 months to remind my wife that I love her because I think she thinks that I don't when college football is here.
Oh my gosh!
I think that she thinks that I
do your weekly date nights and rub her feet and all the things.
But yeah. So and then my last thought on the Ohio State being champions and things like that. I love to provide context to things, especially as a fan. Sometimes you need context. The college football playoffs, 14 to 12 team, have been there for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been with Ohio State, there's sometimes this like disappointment. And obviously you got to understand that this happens because we won this year, right? There's this like disappointment and you feel like you're falling behind and all of these sort of things. In the 11 years of the college football playoff, these are the teams that have won. Bama's won 3. Ohio State's won 2. Georgia's won 2. Clemson's won 2. Michigan's won 1. LSU's won 1. I think as Ohio State fans, sometimes it feels like you're like falling off and it's deep, like all this kind of stuff. And it's because Clemson won 2 in 3 years. Georgia won back-to-back. Bama won 3 in 4 or 5 years, where Ohio State won the first one and then took 10 years. So it feels like there's this long gap and everyone's winning. But when you look at the perspective, Ohio State won 2 national championships in 10 years. Technically 11, 2 in 11 years, right? Like that is great, right? Georgia won 2 in 10 years, technically 2 years, but 2 in 10 in 11 years, right? Bama won 3. And so like Ohio State is still in that precipice.
Oh, I see what you're doing. You're putting it in perspective of that. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because it's just like, you know, like Nick Saban's won 6, but in this 11, he only has 1 more than Ohio State. He only has 1 more than Georgia kind of thing. I think sometimes we view the sport as a whole. So that is one thing that I saw. And I was like, wow, you know, like this actually had I've never one that said it wasn't a good decade for Ohio State or whatever, but it's just like you feel like, man, like we should be winning championships. And then you see the whole and it's like there's only one team that's won 3. There are 3 there's 3 teams that won 2. Like you're there. You know what I mean? Like it's 11 years and 6 teams have won championships in 11 years. So
which goes to show there's not a whole lot of parity in college football. But anyway, go ahead.
There's not. And that's it. That's all. Just as a reminder, because I know this is on an Ohio State site and I'm an Ohio State fan and things like that, that 2 and 11, we're still doing well. And we have a chance to.
There are some that have 0, like SMU. Yeah. Get over yourselves.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
I mean, love y'all.
Wrap the show. Mine is going to be super quick, so I'll go and then I'll let you finish off the show. We, as we kind of hinted, our 2-minute warnings are going to be about women's sports. everyone watches women's sports. I need one of those shirts so bad.
I need one too. Oh my gosh, I need one too.
Everyone watches women's sports, and we are kind of, there's this thing that happens a lot with being in a marginalized community where like you're tired of being the first, right? Like you're tired of seeing the first. Like why? Like this is the first. This is the first. That it's like, oh my god. But like, especially in the beginning, right? There's like a lot of joy, and obviously I'm not a woman, but I'm watching this. We are seeing this like explosion of women's sports is not in our heads. It is like legitimately happening. Naomi Girma, who is fucking amazing, she just became the first woman ever to get $1 million transfer in soccer. I'm not going to go down and break down all the transfer fees and all that stuff. Soccer is very confusing, but she was on a team. They bought out her contract. That happens in men's soccer all the time, and they do it for $500 million, like Messi and Ronaldo and all these people. Their contracts are insane. Naomi Girma is the first woman to ever get a fee of $1 million in soccer. Also, and women's soccer being kind of built globally, the NWSL is the best women's soccer league in the world, but women's soccer leagues are growing as these teams that have super successful men's teams are finally starting to value them. I won't go on a tirade of why I think the WNBA needs to separate from the NBA and why I think the NWSL is so successful, because they're not tied to the NWSL.
Yeah.
They're their own. But in Europe, a lot of these leagues, it's Chelsea men, Chelsea women, it's Liverpool men, Liverpool whatever. But they're starting, England, the US, all these other countries are starting to build their women's leagues and these sort of things. And someone just paid $1 million for a female soccer player. And she's a dog. She's great.
She's
like
literally ridiculous.
Yeah, she's so good. But yeah, that was mine. Shout out to her. Shout out to them big bucks, and shout out to this continued explosion of women's sports that we'll see. And eventually, that's going to be a $10 million fee, a $20 million.
Yes, exactly.
Fee. Like, eventually we'll get there.
It's so important. Women's sports are so important. Like, I was talking to my niece. She is 16, which is crazy. I have a 16-year-old niece, 17-year-old niece. And she's shopping colleges. My sister was very, very, very intentional about her specifically because she's a very elite soccer player. I'm talking like nationally elite, very, very good soccer player, my niece is. Okay. And so my sister was very, very protective of her, and she did not talk to any colleges until she became a sophomore. So now that she's talking to colleges, she's getting a lot of offers, she's getting a lot of information. She's just trying to figure out what she wants to do. And she's trying to figure out, and she's very smart, obviously join a team where she's going to be able to make an impact early. She doesn't want to necessarily have that rookie experience where you come on, you sit for 3 years, and then you get to play. She kind of wants to come in hot, which is something that she can do because she's that good. But I talked to her because when we talked when she was younger, she talked about, I want to play soccer in college so I can get a scholarship. That was it. I just want to get a scholarship. I just want to be able to go to college for free, study what I want. It was such a beautiful moment her and I had at Christmas when I got to ask her, well, what do you want to do with soccer now? And she said, I want to go pro because now I think I can. Now I feel like there's a path for me to go pro. Because before, when she was 12, when she was 11, when she was 10, when she was becoming one of these really great players, playing for the FC Dallas youth team and doing all this other stuff, like that wasn't, girl, where you gonna play at? And now for her to say, I think that I'm becoming more intentional about my college choices because I want to go pro. Women's sports are so important. It's so important. Like so many of these women who are in women's sports right now, they didn't know if that was an option for them. They was just playing and hoping for the best. Now you have these young girls and even younger girls who are looking and they're saying, I can really be a professional at this. Like, I don't have to stop at college. I don't have to stop at high school. I can be a pro. Like one of my classmates, shout out to her, Maya Tabron. She's on the San Diego professional women's volleyball team. She talked about that. Like she talked about, I'm going to play volleyball. I'm going to play volleyball in college. And cool. Because professional women's volleyball in America is only 2 years. This is their second season. And she got drafted and she got selected. And now she's playing professional women's volleyball, something that she didn't think that she would be able to do when she first picked up a volleyball. Like, it's so important. It's just so important. Like, the biggest thing I was going to say was I have experienced unrivaled basketball week 1 and week 2, because week 2 is actually, we're still in it. So there's going to be some games tomorrow. But when y'all are hearing this, there'll be games tonight. But it's great. It's just great. It is not anything. I didn't expect it to not be great. I didn't expect it to not be entertaining. And that's really that is my 2-minute warning. Is unrivaled basketball is absolutely fantastic. I'm happy that I got to explain the business part of it to y'all last week or a couple weeks ago. And now I get to say that the product is truly exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's fun basketball. It's quick basketball. It is playground style basketball, because they have a structure for the rules where it's an untimed fourth quarter and they just play to a winning score. There's always a game winning shot. That's fucking brilliant. And women are playing out of their freaking minds. I mean, Nafisa Collier dropped 37 points and grabbed 18 rebounds in a foot. These games are not even 40 minutes. These games are 20 minutes, basically. Like, these games are 25 minutes, basically. So it's great. It's great. If you truly are just looking for something to watch, it is fantastic. One thing I did learn, though, and I did want to share, if you guys are like me and sometimes you miss games and you want to watch replays, the replays are only available for 24 hours on Max. So if you are trying to watch a replay, you do have to kind of run and grab it rather quickly, because the way the rights are set up, they can't keep them on the platform. They can only have them on there for a short period of time. But yeah, get into it. It is fantastic. My favorite team is the Laces. I am a soulmate. That is the name of the fandom. So my favorite team is the Laces.
Never mind.
They named it. Everybody on the internet was looking for fandom names, and then they did a video where they asked the Laces what they wanted to call their fandom, and they all said that they liked the name Soulmates. So we are the Soulmates.
Nowhere, because that has nothing to do with Laces. But
Laces, shoes, souls, soulmates, souls of the shoe. It makes perfect sense.
I mean, you had to go through like 6 steps, but I
did, but whatever. I'm a soulmate. I love the Laces. I love them. And then I'm also a super big fan of the Lunar Owls. Hoo-doo! So I'm here for it. But if y'all haven't gotten into it, please get into it. It's really great basketball.
Yeah. And that's it.
But also, Jordan, you like it too. Jordan doesn't watch women's basketball like that. You don't watch it like that. And you were like, wow, this is great.
Okay. I don't like the way you preface that.
I know, that's why I fixed it.
Jordan doesn't watch women's basketball. Jordan doesn't watch basketball.
Basketball. Everybody's basketball.
When you put women, it makes it seem like I'm watching the NBA. No.
Sorry. Jordan does not watch anything associated with the National Basketball Association.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You can't, because I will watch women's basketball before I watch men's. I don't watch basketball. Yeah, don't end the show like that.
Sorry, I meant to say that. Do you see how I've been gathered? What I meant to say is Jordan doesn't watch basketball, and he was watching Unrivaled. How do you know about Unrivaled?
Yeah, I think it's really fun. I think it's great. I also like that, which I know. I texted you this, and you were like, "Football is the slowest sport in the world."
It is.
Football can keep my attention. Basketball doesn't. So I do like the games that the games are quick and like shorter. That is perfect for me. The 3-on-3 is really fun. It really exposes kind of a lot. And they be hooping. And I'm not good with names, so I also like it because as I go into the WNBA season and things, and of course it's only everyone, but I'm also like learning some players that like I should know, like things like that. Like I picked up,
Tiffany Hayes.
Yeah, that's the A. That's the
you learned Tiffany Hayes.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they're like. Like I'm good with the NFL. The NBA kind of gets like shoved at you. I know almost no baseball players' names. I do know the U.S. women's national team soccer because like I was really getting into soccer, but like women's basketball and like some of the other like names just like lose me. And so like also like it because like when I go in and someone says like Tiffany Hayes for blank, I'm like, yeah, I know like you obviously know like Sabrina and those people, but like some of the others. So, but I think it's fun. It's about as fun as basketball can be. because,
Meanwhile, me and my guy friends who like basketball are like in the living room, like screaming when Chelsea Gray, she literally did a over the behind the head, no look pass. Yeah, and we were like, like losing our freaking minds because we're actual basketball people. So I guess for the basketball fan, like if you really like basketball just as a sport, you will like Unrivaled for sure.
I like basketball as a concept. I don't love watching basketball.
How do you what? Okay, we don't see this is how we end up here for an hour and a
Yeah.
half. Because what kind of statement is I like basketball as a concept?
It's this is what I say, and this is where I'll end it. I spend so much time watching football that when it comes to watching basketball, I'm like, I could watch a movie. Like I could watch a TV show. Like, you know, like I'm like I collect movies. Like I'm really into like movies. I collect DVDs. I have a DVD
Yeah.
player. I really like TV shows
A
and like
DVD
stuff
is
like
a
that.
CD that movies are on that you put into a machine
Yeah.
and it plays it.
Yeah. So for me, when it's like football, like I'm gonna watch football. But when it's like this game is on at Tuesday at 8, and it's like I could watch Criminal Minds or I could watch the NBA.
Not Shamar and them.
I'm gonna watch Criminal Minds. So that's the thing. Like I watch basketball. I can almost always tell you what's going on. I watch the playoffs. I watch March Madness. But it's just like to watch a basketball game on a Wednesday when I could watch Reacher, right? Like I could watch. You know what I mean? Like I could watch a fucking. I'd love. This is such an off-season thing, and this will come up randomly because in the off-season, I feel like half my 2-minute warnings are going to be like TV shows. I'm Netflix's strongest soldier, not the business, but as far as like Netflix versus like Hulu and these other things, I'm Netflix's strongest soldier. I feel like a lot of people don't like Netflix because they haven't gotten into like the French and Spanish shows. Some of that is ethnocentric. I'm sorry
very.
if you can't. Yeah. If you don't love that the voices don't match
the words, exactly. Get over yourself.
But like, especially if you like crime and thriller, the Spanish and the French, they are kicking our ass. And these little like 8 episode kind of like in and out, it's shorter than like a series, but it's longer than a movie. So I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like
he said, I'm watching Netflix.
You want me to watch basketball on a Tuesday when I'm about to watch Behind Her Eyes? Like I'm about to watch What Happened to Sarah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I got things to do.
I got shows to catch up on.
Call me when the NFL is on. You know what I'm saying? Like call me. So that's what I mean. But like I like basketball as a concept because I like it. It's just I'm getting into this Spanish thriller. I'm sorry. Like
I don't need to watch the games from the beginning. I've gotten to that point where I don't need to watch it from the beginning. I'll pop it on after halftime, see what's going on. Like, I don't need to watch every single game from the beginning. Because, like, we know, like, when it comes to basketball, like, child, it's the last 3 minutes that matter. So, like, that's why I'm just kind of like, I don't watch it from the beginning anymore. But I do feel you on the French and Spanish. I watched this movie on Prime Video called The Intouchables. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It is so good. It's in French.
All right.
It is so good. But it's not like an action film. It's more of a comedy drama sort of film. But it's about like this it's about this paraplegic man who ends up with a caretaker who's like kind of like this dude from the hood, and they end up like, but he's like uber rich, and they end up like becoming friends. But it's all in French, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious. It is one of the funniest movies I've seen in a while. Besides One of Them Days, which if y'all haven't seen One of Them Days, go see One of Them Days. But
everyone says that I'm like super dark. I don't watch a whole lot of comedies, but I'll check it out.
It's a drama. It's a comedy drama. Like it's not just like a slapstick. Yeah.
I know. Like comedy dramas, they're not typically in my watch list a whole lot. But if you send it to me, I'll watch it. It's an off season. I need something to do.
But you can watch basketball.
I'm gonna watch Unrivaled, but like.
Yes. I also do indulge in sports documentaries quite a bit. So in the 2-minute warnings, you might hear he might be talking about the TV. I might be giving my reviews of the sports documentaries.
I need to finish The Captain. That's what I'm saying. There's so many things that come out. You want me to watch a basketball game in March? Well, not March.
Yes, in March.
January? I don't give a fuck about basketball in January.
Yes, in March.
January.
What do you mean?
I watch it March. March. I was thinking about the NBA because I still don't watch the NBA in March.
Like, no, you're watching college in March. And I'm sorry, I'm telling you right now, I don't know nothing about what's going on with men's basketball, college basketball. I don't know nothing. Don't ask me. Don't DM me. They'll be like, who do you like? Villanova? Girl, I have no idea. I don't know. No, all I know is that little 18-year-old boy. What's his name from Duke? That's all. See, I don't even know his name. Who? Cooper Rush. No, Cooper Rush.
I said his name.
It's time to go.
All right. As always, thank you for listening. Please follow us on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok at Get Defensive Sports Network. We will see you next week.
Oh my God. I called that baby Cooper Rush.